right, here we go. Module 3. We're going to talk about market analysis. This is BA 121A, Developing Your Business Plan, and I am Sarah Holtzclaw. This is the fifth section of the business plan. We've already talked about company and management team, executive summary, products and services. And next we're going to talk about sales, marketing, and financials. But right now we're going to talk about the market analysis. This is an important section. Well, they're all important sections, but this is an important section that shows the reader that you thoroughly understand where your business will stand within the marketplace. So a couple sections that you're going to need to know is what the environment is like, what the competition is like, and then where is your business going to be located and what's it like. So let's talk about the environment first. So there are certain things that you need to think about when you're talking about the environment for your business. You need to describe the industry. Look at it from the point of the big picture. Just if it's the healthcare industry, then you need to also dive into some of those subsections. If it's the at-home care industry section of healthcare, there is lots of research. There are areas that you can and websites you can go to look at whether or not that industry is in growth mode, or if it's maturing, if it's matured once and it's going back up again, it's re-energized. You need to look at all of that, describe it, and talk about the outlook for that industry. We'll talk about competition, but in this section, you also, when you're talking about the environment, you need to say just briefly how many competitors are in there and what's the size of your main competitors. Is your main competitor if you're opening a Mexican restaurant, is your main competitor the other restaurants in the area? Any place that somebody can choose to eat would be your competitor, but you need to narrow that down some. And if you're looking at locating your restaurant in Fremont, what is the market like in that area? Are you near the hospital, or are you going to be locating somewhere outside in a more residential area? What's that residential area look like, and that sort of thing. This, the size of the primary target market, this is also in the environment of that industry. So who is your primary target, and then what is the size of that market? If your primary target market are 16 to 20-year-olds in Fremont, you can see from the U.S. Census, and you'll quote the U.S. Census, exactly how many 16 to 20-year-olds there are in the city of Fremont. But you'll also want to include Newark, Milpitas, Union City, and some of the other surrounding areas in case some of those driving teenagers can get to you. You also want to know where the location of that primary market is. If you are building something and you're going to be shipping it all over the country, the reader needs to know that. But if you are opening a bookstore and the primary target is a neighborhood or the city of Pleasanton, for example, then you need to tell your reader that as well. So you need to be specific about where your customers are going to be coming from, and how they're going to find you is another way of letting your reader know that you've thought this through. Lots of industries have some kind of barriers to market, to get to the market. They have if there are some pretty large competitions, if it's an expensive widget that you're trying to build, if people are buying more of your widgets online than in person, if there is a shortage of one of your raw materials, there's all sorts of things that could come up, you need to talk about those and think about them. We're going to talk about a SWOT analysis in a couple slides, and those kinds of barriers would be threats that you have that are outside your control, but that you need to bring into your control in one way or another. In this section, you'll also talk about what's the regulatory environment like. If you're opening a barber shop, what kinds of things regulate, who regulates it, what kinds of permits do you need, what kinds of certifications do you need. All sorts of different things can, depending on your business, can come up with. There's all sorts of different regulations, and you need to know what those are. This is where you get a chance to work through those. Okay, so then you've kind of talked about the market. You've talked about a little bit about the larger competitors. This is where you will dive further into that. There are certain degrees of competition. And you want to understand that. You want to make sure if this there are only one or two types of businesses that, for instance, the airline industry only has two big players, right? They have Boeing and they have Airbus. So those are very hard to get into. There are, in the smaller airplane manufacturing, there's more of them, so it's not as hard to get into. Are you opening up a farmer's market or a organic farm where you're going to sell your products, and your products are just like somebody else's products? You need to figure that out. That's called perfect competition. Like, your strawberries are as good as their strawberries, but you need to figure out in this particular case what that kind of competition is. And how you're going to differentiate yourself from strawberry to strawberry, for example. You need to know how big the market share is for each of your competitors. So you're going to talk about the competitors, and then you're going to talk about the kind of competition that's there, and then you're going to talk about, say, competitor A has 20% of the market share. Competitor B has 8% of the market share. And then C, D, E, and F all have 2 or 3% of the market share. And that makes an opening for you. So you need to research all of that. And there are places on the internet that you can do that. You can talk about whether or not your competition is direct or indirect. So, for instance, it's a direct competitor, meaning that you're head-to-head with them. You're selling the same kind of shoes. An indirect competitor would be somebody selling shoes, but a different kind of shoe. So, or if you're opening books, a small bookstore, a direct competitor might be the big Barnes & Noble. An indirect competitor might be Costco, who is also selling books, but that's not their main product. Does the competition sell online, or are they physical? Have a physical presence? You need to know all of that. Are they on the East Coast? Are they in China? Are they in South America? Where do they make their goods and services? That sort of thing. Or is all your competition online? The delivery of goods and services is important too. Is how does your competitor get their good and service to their customer? And that may be a good way to differentiate yourself. So, the small business gives better service type of stuff. Can always get it at Amazon, but I kind of like going to the local store because I like supporting local businesses. I could always go to Barnes & Noble, but I like going to the independent bookstore because I like promoting that small business and that local business. So, and that is then a way also in your marketing and advertising that you can differentiate yourself from the competition. You also want to talk about the competitors' pricing structures. You want to say how they price their products and services. We kind of talked about that earlier in one of the other lectures, but you want to make sure that you know how the competitors are pricing their service and what they are. So this is where you describe all of this information. Next, we're going to talk about a SWOT analysis. It's one of your homework assignments. However, this is also in the section that you want to put a SWOT analysis. So let's go to the next slide, and I'll tell you all about it. Okay, so in a market analysis, and you should be doing SWOT analyses for your business every couple of years because these things change. But a SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And the blue section, the strengths and the weaknesses, are things that happen internally. These are factors that you have control of. Internal factors can include your production processes, your physical location, your human resource staff, your financial, your financial strength or weakness. How do you, if you're a nonprofit, your grant structures, your activities, the programs that you run on, your employees, your customers, I think I said location, all of those kinds of things. These are all internal pieces. So you want to list, when it comes to your homework, you want to list 5 strengths and 5 weaknesses. And then you also want to talk about 5 opportunities and 5 threats. Those are external factors. Those could be future trends. Those could be the economy, the ups and downs of the economy. So maybe a threat is a recession. An opportunity would be when the economy is in a growth mode. Could be demographics of the area that you're starting out small, but there's a large market in that particular demographic. It could be a threat could be legislation. If you're a farmer, it could be a threat could be the drought. It could be local international events, could be opportunities and threats. So if you are trying to open a sporting goods store and the Olympics are either coming up or just passed, that might be an opportunity for you to sell specific products that are going along with the Olympics. Or if it's football season and you're selling sporting gear and that sort of thing. So those are external things. You don't have any control over them, but they absolutely can affect your business. So in your homework, I want you to have 5 of each of these. And then you'll put that up into Canvas and I will download it and take a look at it. So these are for your business. Internal strengths and weaknesses will be a little bit difficult since you're just starting out. Externals, you should know some of those things that you're going to be facing, but strengths and weaknesses for a brand new company, strength could be the idea, strength could be the niche that you've found, and weakness might be funding. Weaknesses might be that you don't have the particular skills to do a certain area and you need to hire more, those types of things. So I'm sure that you can come up with 5 in each of these. All right. So one of the last things in this section that I want to talk about is where your business is actually located. So, and what determines a good location. So I'm going to assume that, well, I probably shouldn't assume, but I'm going to assume that it is a physical location that you're having, and not just an online store. But I need you to think about that in your business plan. If you're creating something that's solely online, or you're going to be working from home, then you need to talk about that. So for instance, if you want to be a graphic designer, then that your business could easily be in your home. So you want to make sure that you're talking about that, but you also then want to make sure that you talk about where your customers are. If you are that graphic designer, and you're working from your home, where are your customers? Where is your target market located? And how do you think you're going to reach that target market? What industry is your business in? Are you going to this brick and click? So a brick is a physical location. A click business is just on the computer, or are you going to have both? So physical location, internet-driven location, or a combination of the two you want to talk about. If you're taking a physical location, let's just say you're opening a dry cleaners, where is that dry cleaners going to be located? What is the traffic patterns around that? Who are the anchor tenants or your neighbors in that mall or in that area? And what is it that's going to draw them to you? And is that location easy? Is it really a busy intersection during the drive times, during before work and after work, that will prohibit people to get out of? Once they've gotten to you, they'll get frustrated because they can't get back into traffic. Is it next to a Safeway? Is it next in a mall that's next to Nordstrom's? Those are the type of things that you want to understand and you want to tell your readers about, because that will make a difference as to how much traffic you're going to have and how many customers you're going to have. Where's your competition located? If you're opening, let's just say a hardware store and there's a Lowe's down the road, why are you picking that particular location? So you want to be sure that you understand where your competitors are. If they're all online, where are you? And how are you going to differentiate yourself from that? What are the taxes and fees like in these locations? How are employees going to find you? Is there a large enough pool of employees to draw off of? How much is it going to cost to rent or buy or lease something in that area that you're looking at? And is that location something that is capable for to take on your type of business? There are some restrictions as to if you're using chemicals, to being in a high traffic area. If so you need to make sure that you understand what the zoning requirements are for your type of business. So if you can answer all of these 10 questions very thoroughly, then you've pretty much covered the location section of the business plan. All right, so that's the area. That's this in particular, the end of this particular lecture. Again, links and research are online in the Canvas in this whole section. So feel free to dig deeper. Thanks.